Good day, everyone. My name is Darina Rodriguez, and I will be presenting on my golden age of children's literature. I chose to present on The Jungle Book. It was written by Rudyard Kipling. This book was originally written in 1984. The lesson was generally being a brave in the face of challenges that may at times seem unbeatable, and I compared it to the story Samson and Goliath, which seemed to have matching perfectly because of the size of the person who had to compete against someone that was bigger. The genre of the story was it was a historical fiction. The intended audience was children above the age of 9. Back in those days, I think it was more gravitated towards the male. The quality, it was easy to read and understand because I had watched the movie. I could see the book through the eyes of the writer. Now, the plot summary. Mowgli was an orphan Indian who was raised by a pack of wolves in the jungle of India after his parents were attacked by Shere Khan, a fearless tiger. He grew near and fond of Baloo bear and Bagadir panther. They took through they taught him, how to survive, and one of the most important things that both of them taught him was the laws of the jungle. These two characters were conflicted at one point in the book because Baloo wanted the boy to stay in the jungle because he thought that the boy he said that the boy would be better off in the jungle. He wouldn't survive around amongst the human. While Bahira, he believed that the boy would be safer in the village with his own kind, especially due to the fact that Shere Khan wanted to kill him. But Mowgli gravitated towards Baloo, and he was more in the carefree. He believed that why do I have to worry if my brothers and sisters are here to protect me? While the panther saw it more as though, and he reminded him that you aren't a wolf. At some point, they will not be able to protect you anymore. The conflict in this story, there were two conflicts. There was the inner conflict and the outer conflict. The inner conflict was the fact that the boy thought he was a wolf, but he was asked to live among man. He was conflicted. Imagine growing up as a wolf all your life. How am I going to survive among human beings and that I really don't know anything about? All I know are the laws of the jungle, and this was how he felt. Now, whenever I think about this, I think about teenagers. I think about their conflicts, their battle, what they go through whenever they have to transform from being a child to adolescence. They're conflicted within themselves. The outer conflict was basically Mowgli, who had to fight against Shere Khan in the final battle. Now, in this one, I added in this slide because there are different versions of movies or cartoons that were written from the book, from the Jungle Book. The first version was in 1967. When I viewed that particular animation or that cartoon, it was children centered, mostly because they took out the all these big conflicts and these big battle that were actually fought in the story. They made it more fun, more that a child would be gravitated toward once watching it. And then now in the second version of the movie, this seems to have taken the general overview of the book, but one of the main characters seems to have changed his views. In the second version of the movie, Baloo mainly, he seemed to have been more a con artist. He seemed to have been more selfish. He wanted the boy at first in the jungle to please him, to use him, to do what he wanted, right? While in the original book and in the movie before, this was not so. Baloo was more a friendly and overprotected guard of the child. The final release of this book was changed to the name of the character, the main character, which was Mowgli. This was in 2018. Now, when I read the book, while I was reading through the book and this final version, or what seemed to be the final version at this point, was more unlikely collaborated in the characters. The characters stood to be who they were. Baloo was the character that who was the trainer of the wolves, as was portrayed in the movie. He was protected, overprotected of the boys himself and the panther. Now, I did a comparison between the Jungle Book and the final movie, which was called Mowgli Legends of the Jungle. As I told you earlier, most of the things seem to have been in place. Most of the characters, when I said the same character, because they indeed added some characters, the little white wolf that was Mowgli's friend, he was added in and he was not in the original book. But when I referred to the same character, I was talking about these personalities. They were the same of the characters that were in the book and in the final movie. Now, this final movie was gravitated towards a more mature audience because this actually brought out the scenes of the original book. The only difference I really found from the original book that set it apart from the movie was the manner in which it was written. It spoke more about ye, they, thou art, and thee. These were how the characters spoke. The conflict was generally the same, and the difference is now from the 2019 movie is that some of the characters were brought in at different standpoint of the movie. Like, for example, the snake Kai. Kai was brought in the beginning of the movie, while in the book he was brought in more later on down the character. And I also said that they added some characters to the book, to the movie, that made it even more appealing. Arthur, Mr. Rudyard Kipling was an English author famous for his array works, Just So Stories, If, and The Jungle Book. Now, he was born in England, but he moved to India with his family. He never made any visit to the actual to the jungles of India, but he was intrigued by the jungle and he wrote the story. He did have some very sad twists in his life, one in particular where his daughter had died at the age of 8. He received a 1907 Nobel Prize in Literature. And so far, and one thing I can say is the book was enjoyable to read because of the fact that I actually saw the movie itself.